Welcome to another edition of BCS Pawcast. Today, our featured and special guest is Mr. Connor White. Welcome, Connor.
Morning, Joe. Glad to be here.
Glad you're here as well. And so we wanted you to come by and tell us a little bit about your story, how you got here at Brentwood, what you do here at Brentwood, and the impact you're having with our kids.
Well, I'm appreciative of the opportunity to be on here. And my story with Brentwood Christian is kind of unique and has taken on a few roles. When I was growing, I grew up in the Austin area, having moved from the DFW area and into Austin. Grew up just being a public school kid and had great experiences. And over the course of that time, things for a lot of different reasons started to change, and that became a really negative experience. By my sophomore year of high school, a lot of circumstances led to looking for something different. And I had grown up knowing about Brentwood, but really it was a couple of my friends that I'd played sports with and had gone to this school, and one of them whose mom taught here. But it was just like, that's what they do. I go to public school, and it's okay, great. And at some point during my freshman year, it was like, maybe we could look at that and being a serious option. And so was very excited for a change of pace and stepping into a world from when I was at a school that had more kids in a grade than were in this entire campus. And so it was pretty foreign, and the whole lockers thing, I was deeply confused by the concept of not having locks on the lockers. And there was a lot of things culturally that really threw me off. But coming here as a sophomore was a huge blessing, and graduated from here. And so I was here as a student, not as I joke with kids in my classes now. I wasn't a lifer. I didn't experience being a little chapel buddy in some of the elementary and middle school things that we do. But I did finish my last few high school years here. And then I went to school and had zero intentions of ever coming back. I thought I was going to go a lot of different other places, and had gone to school initially expecting to go into a field of medical something. I thought maybe medical school or PA school or something like that. And for a lot of reasons, I decided I wanted to do something with a little bit more influence. I wanted to influence young people, and so that became my degree path. And I wanted to work with young men at the high school level, and coaching and teaching, and that being a big part of my passion. And so went to school and had a bunch of other offers and opportunities, and a handful of things brought me back to Austin, and this was a spot that I had an opportunity, and I was very drawn to working with Coach Carr and the program here with boys basketball. That's part of my role. I'm assistant boys basketball coach, and have been involved with golf, and now I'm the head golf coach starting this year. And then the new addition this year is the chaplain role, something that our school president, Mr. Burcham, as well as Coach Maxfield, our athletic director, instituted the idea to be a little bit more purposeful with our athletic programs and how we integrate spiritual in ways that we may have said before, but maybe not been as purposeful. And so they sort of tasked me with putting into place some specifics about how we go about that, and working with coaches to mentor and to be thoughtful about using sports for more than just winning and losing. We're absolutely going to compete, but we are going to do that in ways that honor our God, and we can have an eternal impact upon student athletes beyond when they graduate and turn in their jersey.
That's awesome. And I do want to get back to the chaplain position, but in going back, you said at high school you played sports. What sports did you play in high school?
I was a basketball player and got talked into golf and fell in love with that too. But basketball was my love.
Nice. And so being that you went to public school and then you came here to Brentwood, which obviously was a big culture shock for you in many ways, not just locks on lockers, but even just having the Christian aspect to it. How was that transition? I mean, you were already a Christian. Can you tell us a little bit about your testimony?
Sure. I went to public school and was very used to teachers that just taught me math, science, social studies, English. And I had very little idea of their personal life or what mattered to them. And walking into this school where suddenly teachers are telling me that they're walking a life of faith, and they are standing on the truth that Jesus is Lord, and that their entire life is reshaped from that reality. That was the coolest thing ever, to get to sit at their feet and hear faith integrated into their math class. Obviously, their Bible classes, that was the built-in, but to see that built into so many different things that I didn't even think was possible was really, really cool. I had grown up in a faithful home where my parents were Christians and modeled that, and so I was very blessed to live in that lifestyle growing up. But to get to have that supported here was super cool. To see teachers and coaches that weren't perfect but lived it out and took seriously the mission that I saw lived out even as a kid. I as a high school student, I could see that there was a mission focus going on here. And so that was really cool. Even coming from a background of faith and growing up in the church and growing up with parents that raised me to love God and to demonstrated what it meant to live out faith. I saw that, and so to have it supported in a second element was really cool and a huge blessing.
Well, with your background, I think you bring a unique perspective, because you came from a secular school, especially in high school, and then coming into a Christian school environment. So now you can speak into the lives of these kids who make that transition as well. Their parents want to take them out of public school at whatever age and stage, and then bring them over here. And for them to make that change and adapt to a Christian worldview, which they probably weren't exposed to, maybe at home, maybe not, but it kind of helps give you the opportunity to say, hey, I totally get what you're going through. I get what you're thinking. And so you can reach out to them and minister to them in a powerful way. So I think you being the person and the candidate for this new position for the mentor role as an athletic chaplain, I think is a great idea. Now, do you do both male and female sports, or you only do the male sports? How does that work? And what sports?
Right. So I've been, the entire time I've been coaching has been with boys basketball. And I've been the JV head coach and varsity assistant during that time. And that's been incredible. And we've been blessed to have some awesome teams and great kids, many of which I've had the opportunity to speak into that have been transfers that come here and their eyes are like, what is going on at this place? This is totally different, which is super cool. And then I've also had a role with the golf program. I was the assistant for a couple of years. And then last year was Coach Owens had that solo. And then this year I took that back over, and I'm the head coach of golf now. So now adding to that role of chaplain and golf as well. But basketball and golf have been the roles that I've had here. And golf has boys and girls. So it is a good change of pace to get a little bit of dose away from the boys and move into having a little bit of both. But I enjoy both of those roles tremendously. And
what about
it's
mentoring?
A huge blessing.
Do you mentor all sports, or only the sports that you are involved coaching?
I try to build relationships with kids in all sports. Obviously, there's going to be some that are like, man, I don't care about basketball or golf or whatever. I want to just stay in my lane. That's great. And some of them are more hesitant to that. But I think with my role in the classroom, I teach 10th and 12th grade social studies. And so naturally I get to build a lot of relationships. And that's what I love the most about education in general, but teaching and coaching, you are with kids all day long. And I love that. I love relationships, and that's what matters to me. I know that their social studies scores or their ability to recall what happened in ancient Rome at some point is going to fade. But I hope that the relationship is what lasts, and that whether it was just over simple conversations, maybe on a bus ride or at a restaurant when we're at a team meal or interacting in the hallways, that's what matters to me a lot. And so while I don't coach all those kids or necessarily have all of them in class, I think I do a lot to just be relational and interact with kids in the hallways, and that matters to me a ton. And so mentorship is something that I'm passionate about, and that I was blessed to have a lot of mentors in my life in a lot of different places and stages, some of whom are in these halls today and who have poured into me. And so I love being that to others, and I want to be that to others. That's a huge part of.
Cool. And to give back. So you went on to college, and then when you were graduating from college, you just said, I want to go back to Brentwood? Or was it, I want to teach, forget medical school? What was the aha moment that said, you know what, I think I want to do this?
I was heavily considering the Houston area and some San Antonio and some even Abilene, and I had different connections at different spots. And at the time, there was reasons that coming back to Austin was something that Austin as a location, and many of the other Austin area schools basically the public schools are all 6A, huge schools, and that's something I was not drawn to that. I'd been in that world, and particularly on the sports front, I was like, man, I would really like to have a smaller environment. And so that was part of at some of the other geographic areas being a little bit smaller environment where I could be involved in lots of different things and have kids that weren't one in 4,000, but maybe one in a smaller pond and a little bit more know everybody kind of feel. And so I was pretty hesitant to this, and I'll credit Coach Carr. He gave me a pretty good pitch to what my role could be within basketball and what that opportunity could be. And I was also I was very drawn to the fact of teaching and coaching high school, which when you're 22, you're going to get stuck in full-time 7th grade. And I love those 7th graders. I love them to death, but I was really drawn to being in the high school opportunities. And it's just been an unexpected blessing. I didn't know exactly what it would be, and I was hesitant for a lot of reasons, but I was like, I'm going to do this in faith and see where it goes. And it's been really good. And I've been blessed to work. I've got tremendous mentors within social studies with Mr. Harper and Mel Witcher and those guys, and mentors on the athletic front. And it's been great. And so
this is your what year here?
This is year 4.
Year 4.
Weird, which is hard to believe. So.
Yeah, it goes by fast, believe me. So there's always an opportunity, especially these kids with high school, with just our society today, everything that's going on. I can't imagine teaching today versus when I taught in the classroom, it was cell phones were just turning over to smartphones, and I only had to deal with that for a few years. Which, thank you, Lord, thank you, because I just can't imagine with the distraction that brings into these kids. So still trying to reach these kids. There are so many opportunities, especially even at a Christian school, because you think they're insulated, but really it's everywhere, and it's on their minds. It's in front of them all day long. It's like they say that the cell phone. It's not that it's giving your kid access to the world, rather it's giving the world access to your kid. And when you look at it from that perspective, it really should make us all pause and think, we got to monitor this a lot better, because they're undoing everything that we're trying to do here or what they're listening to at home. And so the battle is for the mind for these kids. I used to say, I still say it all the time, that, have you ever seen, you heard somebody tell you, have you ever seen the new yellow Mustang with the black stripes? You're like, no. But then now that somebody told you that, you see it everywhere. Well, they were always there. We just weren't paying attention. So what does that mean? It means that God's always at work, even in the lives of these kids. There's always ministry opportunities. If there's one thing that they need now is godly men who are mentors that will speak into their lives, show that they are cared for, that we love these kids, that we have an interest in their well-being. It's not just another butt in the seat here. It's really about ways in which we can impact the kingdom and give glory to the Lord for the opportunities given to us to serve him. Well, so thank you for doing that.
Yeah. One of the things that I'm just really passionate about that was kind of a big change when I decided to pivot away from medical was 2 things. I was terrible at chemistry, and so I figured that out. But I also I started to look around at the world, and one of the stark things that just popped was the caliber and quality of men in this world. I just looked around. I was like, there has got to be a way to do this better. And as far as just what I think the world says a man is generally lazy, passive, unwilling to step out and be bold, unwilling to do hard things or make hard decisions, oftentimes lousy fathers, lousy husbands. And I just thought, man, I know for a fact that God has called all of us to be more than that, but for men to make a difference and to be leaders, to be difference makers in every every role that they do, whatever job they have or within their families. Men have this incredible opportunity, and many of those stages I haven't lived yet, but I know that there's a responsibility, and God has called us to more. And frankly, a lot of the world runs away from high school boys. So I'm going to run to them and try to get involved in their life and mentor and just try to make a difference. That's kind of my philosophy is if they run away, I'll run to it. And I know that there's other things that I've run far, far away from. I have run away from kindergarten because I know that is not my spot. But I know that I have an opportunity with high school young men, and I want to make a difference.
Nice.
Because I think the world needs that.
Definitely.
The world needs those men, these guys that are walking our halls today to make a difference and to shine their light in that way.
Well, you've been gifted to do that because, like you said, I mean, for junior high, I know a lot of people don't like going to junior high. Those are tough years. And it's interesting that you picked a school that is a little smaller instead of rather the 6A schools like in Houston. I did 1 year stint in Houston. I think God sent me there to work off past sins. I did my time and I got out. So, but it's definitely a whole different culture even down there. And the larger the school, kids feel more lost in a crowd. And so here you do have more of an opportunity exposure to be able to identify with the kids, know their names, and really get to truly know them. So thank you for doing that. So in being a chaplain, what does that mean to you as far as the opportunity to mentor? How do you start that mentor relationship? Is it inviting them to come in, or are you taking the initiative to speak into their life? Because we got a lot of boys who got injured in this year in the football, and I know they were really down and really want to get out there on the field. They watch their brothers in arms out there playing away, and they really want to get out there, and they can't. It's got to be tough, especially for those seniors. So how do you approach someone like that?
I think a lot of my thought process is no kid, just like coaching, you can't coach a kid and yell at them and tell them what to do if they don't have any clue that you care about them. Mm-hmm. And so it's always important to us just as coaches that we make it a practice to be relational first, and then you can give feedback. And sometimes that feedback is more forceful. That's part of competitive sports. But in relational, it's hard for me to have something to pass on or maybe to encourage them with or even challenge a kid to have a different approach if I haven't tried to get to know them in the hallways or had them in class and taken the time to just have little interactions that is finding out what they are into. Mm-hmm. Like that's one of my passions or maybe not passions that I do every day, but one of my practices on the first day or two of school is to tell me your name. So I start matching name to face, but what are you passionate about? Mm-hmm. And I want to know like whether it's something that I understand and can talk to them about, or whether I have no earthly idea what that is. I can begin building relationships. And then when things like that happen, maybe injuries or they're struggling with something, that avenue is much more open because there's an existing relationship. And the other layer of that is, I think it's hard as educators for us to balance telling kids too much that's not professionally responsible, but also peeling back a layer of sharing some of us with them. An example that I think about last year, there had been a death that really affected me. And really, while it was one that I rejoiced over the faith that was lived, and I had no singular belief of where this person's going. I had absolute crystal clear confidence. It was a hard day to be in the classroom because I just was weighed down by that, and it was a loss. And to get to stand in front of those kids and share with them, I just said, hey, I'm a little off today, and here's why. I lost somebody, and life is real, and I can share with you that I'm here with you guys, and we're going to still have a great day, and but this is something that's going on. And I said, I'm not going to deprive you of knowing that I'm a real person. And I think sometime, and probably just my perception of when I was a high school student or even younger, I probably thought my teachers turned out the lights and slept in their classroom or something, and that they didn't have real lives with real things that go on. And so I think it's important that relationally, not only do we as coaches, teachers, and this role within chaplain, not only do I try to get to know them, but I share some of mine with them and what's going on. And, I had a conversation with a couple of basketball players last year that when I had been dating my now fiance, that we'd been dating for probably 6 months, and they were asking me like, why are you dating her? And well, I'm looking to get married, and that is something that I believe God has given this gift of marriage, and we're finding out if this is for marriage or not. And here's why I am drawn to her. She loves the Lord. She is, and telling them things that I see in her, and none of them have to do with outward, or none of it, they're just who her character is. And
Right.
and yes, she is beautiful, but her character, and talking about, and they were just like, man, that's cool. And it was cool to see that those light bulbs of like, well, maybe I'd want that too. But they don't know that if I don't share
Right.
that this is something that the process I'm going through. And I just think that that's important for us to, as in that mentor relationship, for it to go both ways a little bit.
Definitely. Well, we need to be authentic, and that's what helps build relationship, and it builds that trust. Because if they don't trust you, they don't want anything to do with you. I learned that in my first 6 months in Christian education. I had taught in public school, and then I went to private. And I just thought it was going to be like this Christian Disneyland. Everybody was going to be respectful. They're all going to raise their hand. And I started out in 9th grade, and I was teaching earth and life science. And it was very difficult. Halfway through the year, I thought, man, these kids are punks, man. There's no way I'm doing this anymore. And I spent some time in prayer, and my sister, she got a hold of me, and she said that famous line of, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And it's
Right.
true. And so what I did, ironically, is I asked the superintendent for the keys to the basketball gym. Now, we had a school of 2,500 kids, Christian school, Southern California, and there was 700 students in the high school. And so I made an offer to the 9th grade boys, hey, I'm going to be here on Friday nights from 9 to midnight. If you want to come out, we can throw some hoops and shoot some hoops and just, hang out. And so, of course, that was a big kick and draw for them because they got out of the house, and their
Open
parents
gym.
said Mr. Rispoli is going to be there. And so I had to take care of that floor, though. Boy, they spent a lot of money on that floor every year. But we'd play and we hung out, and that 6 months angst of wanting to get out of there, it totally turned around. It was one of the saddest days years later to leave that school because of the relationships and the opportunities to minister.
Right.
And it was when I became more authentic and transparent. And there's a vulnerability that comes with that, but the rewards totally outweigh any of that. And I still have yearbooks to this day, and the students all wanted to sign it. And every once in a while when I get them out and I'll read their comments, it's just a reminder to me of why this all matters. And I still talk to some of those kids, and I left there in 2003. So these kids are grown. They're
20 years
adults,
later.
have kids almost that could go here. It's crazy, but God uses us. So I like how you have the first responder attitude of you want to run to the students instead of waiting for them to come to you because you're all knowing and all caring. No, you're all caring, and what you know is I want to speak into these kids' lives.
Yeah, I don't have the answers, but I can point them to Scripture, and I can point them to the one who does. And
That's right. Imitate you as you imitate Christ.
That's what I'm trying.
So you're getting married, and that's coming up soon, I heard.
It is, yeah, December 20th. So
Wow, December 20th.
I'm the basketball coach, marrying a nurse, and coordinating those schedules, and it's been fun, but super
Good. She
excited.
can patch up the players when they get injured on
That's
that
right.
court.
She'll save their lives from the stands.
You'll deal with the spiritual, and then she'll deal with the physical. Okay, so before we wrap up, I do want to get into, so you've been mentoring this year, but yet you've been teaching and investing your life into these kids. What do you think if parents were listening right now, what do you think some of the main hot buttons are with some of these kids, what they're struggling with, ways that we can be keeping our eyes and ears open so that we can all do this together? It's not just you doing it alone.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I've tried to do within the chaplain role is some emails that have gone out through athletics that have been a publication we've called, Ethan Grant came up with the idea to call it Chaplain's Corner. And some of the things that I've written and will continue to write have to do with just thoughts that come from what does this community need to hear? What do parents of student athletes, but just students in general, what is going on in our culture, and how can we kind of theme around that? And so that theme has been to bear fruit and centered around the fruit of the Spirit and writing on different fruits of the Spirit. I think that the fruit of the Spirit and living that out is the answer to how we combat a culture that is running to darkness. And those are reflections of light, and reflections, they're fruits of someone who is walking in the light. And there's a lot of scripture to point to that. But I think, so that's kind of the active ways I'm trying to work towards that. But the things I see in our culture, I think kids are being given a lot of opportunities of who they are going to listen to. There's a lot of voices. And you talked about the cell phone thing. I think cell phones, kids are learning that cell phones can be a dangerous thing. What I think is hard is learning to differentiate what is truth and what is lies and what is trustworthy, because there's a whole lot of voices, and some of them are through that box that lights up, and some of them are just culture, whether it's celebrities, the so-called influencers, and some of those people have good things to say, and some of them have very, very helpful things. But it's hard for a 17-year-old to know what influencer can be trusted and which one has a smiling face and looks really great, but they're actually saying some pretty untrue things. And learning to differentiate reality and what will lead them to good, I think is really hard. That's probably the thing that comes to mind the most is I think kids have a really hard battle to know what is true and what voices they're supposed to listen to. And not every kid has great voices to listen to at home, and not every kid has great voices to listen to in the settings that they go into when they walk out of this building. But I just think with social media and all those things, and those are great. I have social media myself. It's really hard for a 17-year-old or younger to, know what they can trust and what the results of following what many of those voices would tell them, because they are clamoring for their attention. And they've got every algorithm there is to pull them, and not everything on those sites is bad, but there's a lot of voices. And the more voices there is, the harder it is to differentiate and find the voice that they need to listen to. And so I just try to encourage kids to listen to the voice of reality and the voice of Jesus. Like he has spoken. We know what Jesus wants from us, and we know massive amounts from the gospel accounts that is Jesus reassuring disciples that were just trying to figure out what in the world they are supposed to do. And he reassures them, and he's patient with them. And that's accounted for us, that we could have the same confidence. And so I just think voices is the biggest thing that if I could hone in, and there's plenty of other challenges, but they're all, to me, centered around that theme a lot of voices of truth and voices of lies. And how to learn those is really critical.
Yeah, discernment. You bring up an excellent point, because discernment is the key. We have a men's Bible study here that meets every other Friday, and the men are all talking about how do we speak into each other's kids' lives, because, I could say something to my kids all day long, but then they turn around and hear you say the same thing, but because you said it and not me, they're like, oh my gosh, did you hear the wisdom from Connor White? Is so awesome. It's like, I just said that last week. So we do need to speak in and point kids to truth, because in a war, truth is always the first casualty. And what's interesting, Scripture is telling us that we need to test all things and be like the Bereans in Acts chapter 17. They searched the Scriptures daily to see that these things were true when anybody came into town and started preaching something. Right. And I think we need to teach our young people to do the same thing, because I was listening to a podcast just even today driving into school, and I'm finishing it. It's a long podcast. I won't mention who it is. It's not because of competition, but yes, but because of their conversation, they were talking about AI. And it was really scary in a sense, because they talked about, one of them mentioned that for Google Gemini, when they came out with that they actually had a department of these woke individuals that deliberately programmed the AI system to their own truth and from a woke perspective, so that it actually changed historical information. For instance, if you would type in, they gave the example, draw pictures of what the Founding Fathers looked like, it was a bunch of diversity of women. And that's not our Founding Fathers. So, but yet that's what it learned. It's only going to build on the data that it's been programmed to spit out. So the individuals were talking about that these AI systems that are being built are being programmed in such a way to kind of reinvent history in certain areas. And so when these kids are using AI looking for truth, I mean, that's just one blatant example. Obviously, you would look at that and say, well, that's ridiculous.
Right.
But there's the subtleties that are being programmed that we don't even know about, but our kids are now reading into, studying, and getting a different perspective. And that is what is really scary. That's what we're up against, even as parents. And this is the world that is around us, is the truth war. What can we do to help balance that truth? That's why we stick with Scripture. God's word is the same as true as it was yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And we need to really be honing in on that and promoting that more than ever, because otherwise these kids will be so confused. They won't know purpose. They won't know meaning. It becomes frustrating. And so we have a unique opportunity, and I think a huge responsibility. We're accountable to God to help equip these families and partner with these parents to help protect the minds and the lives of these kids, because we are really in a battle for the hearts and minds.
I agree. I think it is really hard. I'm not a parent, and I think has been some of my prayer this year is for parents. I also don't think it's gloom and doom, sure, like some in the media say that it is the worst it's ever been, and it's been bad. I'm a history teacher. It's been bad in a lot of eras, right, in a lot of different ways. It's just a new challenge, and it's a new thing. And I would be the biggest fool ever to act like I know how to be a parent, because I don't. But I know that God has been faithful to his people since the very beginning. And even when his people have been very unfaithful to him, he has pursued us, and he will be faithful to us. And we need to be willing to trust him. It may not always be pretty. It may not always follow the script that we want it to, but he'll be faithful, and he'll be what he's always been. And we can have confidence in that.
Nice.
There's going to be a lot of hard. There is still going to be
work,
and there's still going to be messes that we end up in culturally, that we end up within the school setting, within whatever. But he'll be faithful to us, and we can have confidence because he always has been.
Nice. That's a great way to end today's show, because on a positive note. So thanks for doing that. I appreciate that.
I appreciate that, Joe.
All right, Connor. Well, thank you for joining me today. And for our listeners, we hope to bring you back soon, probably after basketball season's over, and kind of talk about all the good, bad, and the ugly. But I'm sure it'll end on a positive note as well.
That'd be the goal.
All right. And remember, it's always a great day to be a Brentwood Bear.